right, so we're diving deep today into this fascinating webinar by Alex Smazhuk.
Yeah, this one's called How to Become the CEO of the Year 2025, or, what it really takes for a business to succeed.
And I think the title itself kind of hints at his whole approach. It's not just about, like, theory.
Right, right.
He's really hands-on. He's a marketing consultant, a business coach. He works with all kinds of entrepreneurs. And he's all about that systematic approach, to developing a business and really nailing the marketing.
Absolutely. He's got a ton of real-world experience to draw on.
So we're going to unpack the big ideas from his webinar, really tailor this to what you guys, our listeners, need to know. He talks about 4 main things. Responsibility in marketing, getting those marketing fundamentals down pat, how important your personal brand is, and the key things that really push business growth.
Yeah, and that first one, responsibility, that's where it all starts. Like how your personal success as the leader, right, is completely tied to how well the whole business does.
Totally.
Yeah.
It's not just about the bottom line, the money. It goes way beyond that.
It impacts every single part of your business, especially your team.
Right. So he breaks this responsibility thing down. First up, you've got your responsibility to your clients.
Yeah, and in this world where everyone's online and, social media is just amplifying everything.
Oh, yeah, that's a whole other beast.
Transparency is not optional anymore.
It's make or break.
Exactly. Honesty, being truthful, that's not just like good business ethics. It's straight up survival.
You mess up with a customer today, and boom, it's all over the internet before you know it.
And that kind of damage to your reputation, that can take forever to recover from.
Not to mention what it does to your profits. Trust is everything these days.
So true.
And then Alexander talks about, like, walking the walk. You can't just talk about your amazing brand image and make all these promises.
Right.
You actually have to deliver on them.
The customer experience has to match what you're saying.
Otherwise, people pick up on that. They get this weird feeling like something's not right. It's called cognitive dissonance.
And that disconnect can really eat away at trust over time.
Even if your initial marketing is super slick, it can't hide that fundamental problem forever.
Nope. If you keep promising the world and under-delivering, people are going to leave.
They'll find someone else who can actually meet their needs.
Exactly.
And then we get into data collection. Now, I know we all love analytics.
Of course, we need those insights.
But he's really careful to emphasize the responsibility that comes with gathering all that customer information. You got to be super upfront with folks about what you're collecting. And even more importantly, you absolutely have to protect their data.
No cutting corners there. Nobody wants a data breach. That's a nightmare scenario.
Total PR disaster.
Oh.
And then he gets into this part about responsibility to your team.
Oh, yeah, that was powerful.
This really resonated with me. He's saying your team's energy, their motivation, that's a direct reflection of your leadership.
So true.
He even had this anecdote about, like, a barista in a hotel, incredibly motivated, giving amazing service. And then he contrasted that with, like, a totally checked out employee in a different hotel.
And it all came down to the management.
Exactly. In the first place, the managers were super supportive. They asked, how can I help you? In the other place, it was all about criticism, finding reasons to cut pay. Same basic talent, but completely different outcomes.
And, thinking bigger picture here.
Yeah.
A motivated team isn't just like happy employees. It affects everything. Customer service, the quality of their work. Ultimately, it impacts how successful your business can be.
They embody your company's values.
Yeah.
They're the face of your business to the outside world.
Absolutely.
He also talks about this responsibility to society, which is like becoming a bigger and bigger thing for businesses to think about.
Oh, for sure.
And he uses Ukraine as an example, like how companies are taking a stand, putting their values into action.
Right. It's not just about profits anymore. Consumers care about social impact.
They want to support businesses that are doing the right thing.
And that sense of responsibility can actually make you stand out from the competition.
It's a selling point.
Totally.
All right, last one. Responsibility to yourself. Alexander is big on being honest with yourself, making choices that benefit both you and your company. But not just about the money, guided by your emotions, your values. And he makes this really key point. As a leader, you're part of a system. You rely on your team.
Which brings us full circle back to that responsibility towards them.
Exactly.
Like you can't pour from an empty cup.
You've got to take care of yourself to take care of others.
Exactly. If you're not taking care of your own well-being, not paying attention to your own ethics, it's tough to lead effectively.
Or build a company that has those strong principles.
For sure.
All right, let's switch gears. let's get into understanding the basics of marketing. And Alexander's very clear on this. Marketing is so much more than just advertising.
Way more.
It's about creating these meaningful relationships between your brand, your product or service, and the people who use them.
Your customers.
Yeah, your customers. And here's where it gets interesting. He challenges this whole idea of buyer personas. You know, those detailed descriptions of your ideal customer.
That whole thing started way back in the 1950s.
Yeah, like Mad Men era.
Exactly. And he's saying it's just not that relevant anymore.
The world's changed a lot.
A lot.
Even compared to like 20 years ago, the average worker is totally different. Individuality is huge now.
And people aren't just staying in jobs for a paycheck anymore.
They want more.
Yeah.
So those old school personas, they might not be the best way to understand your audience.
So instead of these broad demographic profiles, he's saying focus on the when.
When?
Yeah, and the where. Like, when and where is your product or service most needed? What's that critical moment? Forget about whether they fit some predefined persona.
Gotcha. Focus on the need, not the label.
Exactly. And he talks about how the whole economic landscape has shifted. You know, the minimum living wage that's wuyu in Ukrainian.
Okay, I'm going to need you to say that again.
Wuyu. Wuyu.
Yeah, you got it.
Got it. So that's changed. Purchasing power is different, and we've got all these young entrepreneurs coming up. The old ways of defining customers just don't cut it anymore.
Okay, so focus on the situations that make people need your product and the emotions they're feeling at that time. He uses the example of viral content, like on social media. It goes viral because it hits those core emotions.
Yeah, taps into those universal feelings.
Makes you laugh, cry, think.
So instead of just blasting out a message to a general group, you're speaking directly to a specific need or emotion. Way more effective, and you're not wasting resources.
So how do we gather that kind of detailed information?
He says the best source is your existing customers.
Makes sense.
They're a gold mine. Talk to them. Get their feedback. Figure out their needs, their pain points. Why do they value your product or service?
And he's talking especially to the business owners, the leaders who have those direct relationships with key clients. Don't just leave this to the sales team.
Get in there yourself.
Exactly. Show them that you're invested in their experience, that you're actually listening.
And that you're willing to adapt based on what you hear.
He also mentions traditional market research still has its place, but he emphasizes online behavior, like how and why are people searching for things like what you offer.
That's where the real gold is. Those search patterns, they tell you so much.
And then he gets into the nitty-gritty of digital marketing. And he's like, even if you have a whole marketing team, you as the leader, you got to understand the basics.
Like the core concepts.
Yeah. Like, what's the difference between PPC advertising that's pay-per-click and like targeting specific groups? When do you use email versus BCC? What's SEO all about? That's search engine optimization.
And SERM, search engine reputation management.
Okay, so SEO is getting your website to rank higher in those organic search results. And SERM is?
It's about controlling what people see when they search for your brand. It's like shaping your online story.
Gotcha.
And it's not about becoming a marketing whiz yourself.
Right.
It's about being able to talk to your marketing team,
Right.
make smart decisions about where your marketing dollars are going.
Okay, that makes sense.
You need that foundational knowledge to have those strategic conversations.
Speaking of, we can't forget about content marketing. And he cautions against just throwing money at content, like paying to get an article published somewhere without really caring about the quality.
Right. The content itself has to be good.
He's got this analogy. Search engines like Google and those AI assistants like ChatGPT or Google Gemini, they're like librarians.
Okay, I like that.
Your website, your blog, your social media, those are the books. And you've got to create high-quality, valuable stuff so these librarians can find you and recommend you to the right people.
So people are searching for answers. They're looking for solutions. And you got to be the one they find.
Exactly. It's a whole different way of thinking about how people find information.
It's not just about having a website anymore. You got to be actively creating content that those algorithms can understand.
And then he gets into how long-term stuff, like SEO, often gets overlooked in favor of quick wins. And analytics, man, those are so important. He says business leaders need to be able to read those analytics, set the right key performance indicators. Those are KPIs.
KPIs, yeah.
He says ditch those generic formulas, figure out what metrics actually matter for your specific business. And he breaks down these two types of indicators, leading indicators.
Those are like predictors of future success.
Yeah.
Things like how many sales calls are your team making?
Right, and lagging indicators measure past performance, like your total sales volume.
You got to be able to look at that data and understand what's really driving your business.
And then he touches on strategic planning, using tools like Alexander Osterwalder's business model canvas. He's a big fan of setting those BHAGs.
BHAs.
Big, hairy, audacious goals. They give you a long-term vision. And he contrasts that with short-term planning, where we often tend to overestimate what we can actually accomplish.
Right.
In your marketing strategy, he says it's got to be lined up with your overall business goals and how you actually do things.
Can't be some separate thing.
Totally integrated.
Exactly.
He mentions things like SWOT analysis, but he says focus on knowing where to find good information, rather than memorizing every single business concept.
Don't get bogged down in the details.
Right. And he's big on being proactive, seeking advice before things go wrong.
Rather than scrambling when you're already in a crisis.
Understanding the fundamentals helps you see when something's off, when it's time to call in an expert. And this all ties back to responsibility. As a leader, you're responsible for setting those clear goals, making sure tasks are assigned properly, and keeping an eye on progress.
You're the captain of the ship.
Exactly.
And that proactive approach, that can save you a lot of headaches down the line.
So he offers this really helpful gift template to the webinar viewers. It includes that business model canvas and a framework for mapping out your business goals. Sounds super practical. And then he talks about how to communicate those goals to everyone in your organization. He uses this great example of the Disney park cleaners. They totally get the company's values, their standards of excellence.
That's amazing.
It's about making sure everybody, from the top down, understands the big picture.
And how their individual work contributes to it.
Yeah. So communication is key, right?
Yeah.
He stresses regular check-ins with your team, having those strategy sessions 2 to 4 times a year, getting feedback from everyone.
Oh, and he's got this really cool tip. He says, use AI assistants like ChatGPT to practice setting clear tasks and communicating effectively, kind of like a leadership simulator.
I love that idea.
And finally, he talks about how crucial it is to be adaptable in marketing. He says, think of your overall strategy as like the light at the end of a tunnel.
That's a great image. And that tunnel, it might twist and turn, but you got to keep moving towards that light.
And keep your eyes open for new trends, new technologies.
Especially AI. It's changing everything so fast.
You can't afford to fall behind.
All right, let's move on to personal brand. This is something Alexandra is really passionate about. And it's not just about self-promotion, it's about building trust.
Trust with clients, for sure, but also with search engines.
Right, they matter too.
Absolutely. And he says those personal profiles on social media, they often get way more reach than official company pages.
It's because of those algorithms, right? They're designed to prioritize those personal connections.
Makes you think twice about just relying on that corporate account.
Totally. He's big on keeping it human.
Authentic, genuine.
He even suggests having multiple people on your team build their professional presence online.
So it's not just about one central figurehead.
Right. Be authentic, be transparent, share your expertise, but also a bit of your personal interests, if they're relevant.
Let people get to know you.
But here's a warning. Inconsistency can really hurt you. If your messaging is all over the place, it can damage both your personal brand and your company.
People see right through that.
Yeah. Authenticity builds trust, but inconsistency erodes it. He talks about how powerful a good personal brand can be. It showcases your expertise, your team skills, the quality of what you offer.
It's like putting a face to the company.
Exactly.
Makes it more relatable.
And he's a big advocate for public speaking,
Oh, for sure.
both online, like live streams, podcasts, and in person.
It positions you as a leader in your field.
It helps you build that influence.
Yeah, absolutely.
He uses this analogy to explain how a personal brand supports leadership, inspires people to take action, even helps with decision-making. It boosts your company's reputation. He compares it to currency backed by gold. Your personal brand is that gold backing your business's credibility.
I like that. Makes it tangible.
Yeah, it's like a foundation. And networking, he says that's crucial, especially among those top executives.
Partnerships, lead generation, that's where it's at.
He says entrepreneurs often connect better because they get each other. They've got that shared mindset, that willingness to take risks.
They speak the same language.
All right, let's get into those main catalysts for success.
Okay, let's do it.
He lays out a formula. In Ukrainian, it's shushat, which means having those established processes, those smooth operations. Then shukosh, which is all about securing your operations with SHACH, or reserves. And lastly, SHUSHA, focusing on growth.
So you've got efficiency, stability, and that constant drive to expand.
Those are the three pillars.
Oh.
And then he gets into the specifics. First, you've got to really understand your clients.
Their feedback, what motivates them, what emotions are driving their decisions.
Right. Then building a motivated team.
Giving them a vision, being empathetic, appreciating their work.
And being transparent about your strategy.
Everyone on the same page, understanding the values, the goals.
Then there's control. But it's not just about deadlines. It's about those leading indicators. Remember those.
Yeah, the predictors of success.
Like keeping track of those sales calls.
Exactly.
Then adaptability and innovation. Being open to change. Encouraging new ideas from your team.
Embracing that yes and mentality.
And of course, analytics. Got to keep analyzing that data.
Pretty
So it's
smart.
all connected, right? Understanding your customers, motivating your team, being transparent, being in control, adapting, and always analyzing.
Those are the ingredients for success.
He talks about how marketing strategies are going to have to change. New technologies, changing customer behavior. But the basics, he says, those are still crucial. SEO, your website, your blog, social media.
The foundation has to be strong.
But AI is becoming more and more important. Using those AI assistants to automate those everyday tasks, freeing up your team to focus on the big picture.
AI is no longer the future, it's the present.
He also highlights the rise of video content. LinkedIn's algorithm loves video now, and YouTube's a huge platform, both for video and for searching. And then there's TikTok and TikTok Live.
That's where the young folks are.
You can't ignore them. But long-form videos like podcasts on YouTube, those still matter too. So you got to be on all those platforms using different types of content to reach different people. And he wraps up with these key boosters for success.
All right, lamb on us.
Strategic partnerships, collaborations, leveraging your network to open up new opportunities.
Makes sense. Two heads are better than one.
And then smart division of labor.
Yeah.
Delegating effectively, using AI to automate.
Working smarter, not harder.
And self-development, always learning, seeking out mentors, consultants, and especially coaches. He really emphasizes the difference.
Oh yeah, how do you put it? Mentors share their experiences, consultants offer solutions, but coaches.
Coaches empower you to find your own solutions.
There you go.
He tells this great story about a Ford engineer who solves a major problem at a plant with just a chalk mark. It's all about the power of expertise.
So we should be constantly learning, getting those outside perspectives, and maybe even finding a good coach.
So that was Alexander Smazhuk's webinar in a nutshell, all thanks to our partnership with CRM Solutions.
A lot to digest there.
For sure.
It's clear that to build a truly successful business today, you need that holistic approach. Responsibility, marketing know-how, a strong personal brand, and a focus on those key drivers of growth.
It all works together.
It's a system.
So think about everything we covered today.
Take a minute.
Which of those areas really spoke to you?
Where do you need to focus?
Responsibility, marketing fundamentals,
What?
personal branding, or those catalysts for success. Real lasting success doesn't usually come from one single thing.
Nope.
It's about bringing all these pieces together.
Building that solid foundation.
So here's a question for you to ponder. How can you take just one of those strategies and start putting it into practice today? What's that one thing that can move you closer to being the CEO of the year? Not just in title, but in actually building a successful, sustainable, and impactful business.
That's the real goal, right?
That's the real goal.